Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. As you know, over the past 12 years or so, each summer, Coach Mainieri has a press conference at this time of the year to talk about the incoming class of new players and also to talk about the entire roster for the coming season. So that's what we plan to do today. We'll have Coach Mainieri give an opening statement and speak about the upcoming season and the fact that the LSU baseball players have begun reporting to campus this week. And then when he's done with his remarks, we'll go ahead and open it up to you guys as we would a normal press conference, and you can ask him questions for the remainder of the period. So Coach Mainieri enters his 15th season here at LSU. The 2021 season, when it begins, he will begin the year as the winningest active coach in NCAA Division I baseball. He has 1,467 career victories, which is number one among active coaches in Division I baseball. He'll also begin the season number 3 all-time in winning percentage as an SEC coach. So we look forward to the 2021 season, and I'll turn it over now to Coach Paul Mainieri. Let me unmute.
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you, Bill. And welcome, guys and gals. And it's good to see everybody. Craziest time of my life. I'm sure all of you too. We just the new normal is it's been taking a lot of getting used to. I never even knew the word Zoom until March, and now everybody's an expert on how to do Zoom, except I don't know how to unmute myself. I'm so excited about a new year, as I always am. This is I think my 39th season in college baseball, but there's still so many question marks out there about what's going on. All you have to do is follow the news every day, and you're hearing about conferences or schools that are canceling sports in the fall. And here we are, hopefully going to play a football season in the SEC, and hopefully everything's going to move along, and we're going to be ready to play baseball in the spring. And that's what we're going to do. We're on playing baseball in the spring, and that begins with having fall practice here at LSU. So all of our plans are in place to do that. And until somebody tells us we're not going to do that, we're going to assume that we're going to do it as normally we would. That's not to say that there aren't a lot of adjustments that are being made, as they are, to make sure that we're first and foremost taking care of the players and keeping them as safe and as healthy as possible. We're making all kinds of adjustments to how we're actually going to operate practices and the like. We have a COVID-19 policy manual for baseball that we've put together that, very similar to the major league rules: no high fives, no spitting, keeping the gaiter on until you're around your neck until you're close to players. We're going to use 2 dugouts for our inter-squad scrimmage games, as opposed to everybody working out of the same dugout. We'll have pitchers that are not involved in the games sitting in the stands and spaced out, with great spacing, so that they're not contagious to each other. We've done things crazy. Things that you don't think about every day. The way we've assigned lockers. We used to have all the pitchers in one half of the locker room and all the position players in the other half of the locker room. Now we alternate pitcher, position player, pitcher, position player, for the simple reason that if I want to, I can send the pitchers home early from practice. And then when the 18 position players finish the scrimmage game, only those 18 players plus the 2 pitchers that ended the scrimmage game will be in the locker room, and they'll be more spread out. So we're doing everything that we can possibly do, that we can think of, to control the health of the players while they're under our control. And then, of course, we plead with the players and try to guide them and educate them on what to do when they're away from the baseball field, to give themselves the best chance to remain healthy and not to either catch it or to spread it. So, obviously it's not business as normal when it comes to all these precautions that we're taking. But outside of that, we're trying to it's business as normal as we're trying to develop a championship team. I think we have the makings of a really great team. Last year, unfortunately, the season was cut short after 17 games. I would have loved to seen all those young kids that we had in the program for the first year last year. I would have loved to see them get through an SEC schedule. It would have hardened them and given them great experience, but it wasn't meant to be. Several of our players have gone off and played in the summer. I think Eddie Smith deserves a lot of credit, my assistant coach. His responsibility of placing kids in the summer, he was like Houdini this summer. One league would cancel, so he'd move the kids to another league. Another league would get canceled, he'd be moving them to another league. So we ended up having several players play this summer. Many of them played down in Florida. Believe it or not, Florida was a hot spot, but yet we had a half a dozen kids playing in South Florida, and they all played extremely well. So I was real happy about that. We had kids playing, in different parts of the country, and they were able to gain some good experience this summer. And even though they missed out on a lot of last season, and several of them didn't play this summer, I just feel very excited about getting back to fall practice, especially with having so many new guys again this year to combine with the veterans that we have from the last couple of years. And I just think we're going to have a chance to have a really great team. So I'm not going to go over every player on the team. Why don't Bill, you want me to go ahead and just start taking questions from people, and I can speak specifically about any player that you want to hear about, or any other questions that you may have.
Yeah, that sounds great. You guys go ahead. We'll go ahead and open it up to questions for Coach.
Coach, do you feel like you're starting over with the same team, or you're starting new with a new team?
Well, if you look at our team, we lost three very valuable hitters in Daniel Cabrera, Zach Mathis, and Saul Garza. And, of course, we lost a great pitcher in Cole Henry. But outside of losing Cole Henry, we virtually have the same pitching staff back. Plus, we've added to that with what I think to be an outstanding crop of young pitchers, a couple of which that we thought we had very little chance of holding on to. But when the Major League Draft was reduced down to 5 rounds, those kids ended up coming to school. So I think from a pitching standpoint, if you imagine Jaden Hill replacing Cole Henry in the starting rotation, we've got Marceau back, we've got Labus back, we've still got Fontenot back in the bullpen, who was mostly our closer last year. And I think that guys like Matthew Beck and Mikhail Hilliard and Aaron George and Trent Vittmeyer, the kind of guys that have had great experience over the course of a few years. I feel like we virtually have the same pitching staff back, except we've added to it with some really electric arms. And I think somebody will be able to replace Jaden Hill in the bullpen for us. And if you imagine that we had the same rotation, which was really elite last year as we were getting ready to go, and I think it'll be every bit as good this year, if not better. And then you add to that some of these young arms. I just think our pitching staff has a chance to be one of the best pitching staffs we've ever had. I was saying that before last year, and I think that it proved to be true. Bill, I think that the batting average against our pitchers last year, wasn't it like the lowest in 20 years or something through 17?
Right. It'd been the lowest in the past 24 years through 17 games.
Through 17 games. So we had a low ERA. We had a pitcher pitch a no-hitter through 7 innings and against a great team. So our pitching, I think, last year was living up to the hype that I had given to it. And I think our staff has a chance to be just as good, if not better, this year. From a position player standpoint, Mike, I think, the loss of those 3 bats certainly is huge. But I do feel that some of the guys that we have back are going to provide great leadership. And then when you add to that some of the position players that we brought in, of course, the headliner of the group that's coming in is Dylan Cruz. Dylan pulled himself out of the draft last year, very similar to kind of Daniel Cabrera 3 years ago. When he didn't pull himself out of the draft, but he just priced himself out. Cade Doty priced himself out of the draft last year. This year, Dylan Cruz just pulled himself right out of it. And I think Dylan Cruz is going to have the same kind of impact on our.
All right, hospitalizations are.
So I'm sorry, but I think Dylan has a chance to have the same kind of impact on our offense that Daniel Cabrera had 2 years ago and Cade Doty did last year. So, I just have a feeling that we're going to find the pieces of the puzzle, and it's going to be a really good, solid lineup, very good defensively. Obviously, everybody loves offense. I love offense, and we lost 3 big bats. I think just the natural evolution of some of the players that we had last year, that I think they're going to be better. I think a guy like Cade Beloso really hadn't hit his stride last year. He only hit 1 home run in the first 17 games. I think we're going to see a lot better at a Cade Beloso this year. I just feel very good about the lineup that we're going to put out there. It's going to be a good, solid lineup. Once we get through fall practice, we'll have a better idea who are going to be the main guys. But we're not going to be any shortage for quality players at any position.
Hey, Coach.
Okay. Go ahead, John.
Okay. Coach, we visited with Bill Franquez in June, and we were talking about the past spring, how great the weather was. And this weekend we would have been playing Vanderbilt, or this weekend we've been playing Arkansas, and down the line. I'm just curious your perspective. What was it like to go through that spring and wake up on the weekend and not be coaching?
Jacques, it was an awful time for everybody. And that's what I just tried to do, was keep everything in perspective. When they stopped the season back on March 12th, I believe it was, I didn't look back. I just started looking forward. I mean, literally the same day that I said goodbye to the team, I was in my office with the whole staff, and we were looking at our depth chart for 2021. And one of the greatest gifts that we have in life is to choose. You can choose to be happy or sad. You can procrastinate or be a doer. You can, have a lot of choices in life. And my choice about dealing with this was to keep it in perspective. There's a lot of people in this world and in our country that have died from this disease. There's a lot of people that were inflicted with it and are really still struggling to this day. And we're still, battling this thing. And so to sit back and to complain and whine that our season got taken away from us just seemed very small-minded to me. Was I disappointed? Yes. I mean, we had won 9 of our previous 11 games. We had won 5 in a row. I felt like we had finally settled on a lineup, and the lineup was starting to swing the bats well. Our pitching staff was elite. I thought we were right on target, right on schedule, and we were ascending as a team. And just, you guys have followed our team for several years, and you know that our team gets better as the year goes on, and we catch fire and we go into the postseason with the team playing really well. And I thought last year we were right on schedule. But, if you were Florida or Ole Miss or other teams too that were doing well, they probably even had more of a complaint than we had, So I just didn't spend time worrying about what we lost out on. I just, was worried about our fellow human, hoping that people would be safe. I was concerned about my own family, and then all my focus was on getting ready for the 2021 season. So really, I didn't spend a lot of time thinking, well, if the season was going on, we would have been playing this team, or we'd be in Hoover, or we'd be in Omaha, or whatever. Life threw us a curveball, and we just had to deal with it and move forward. And that's the attitude I took.
Paul, could I ask you about the pitching staff again? If I'm looking correctly at the newcomers, there are 3 left-handed pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
Are they ready to help this staff next year?
Well, I thought we had 4. Hold on one second.
I may have miscounted.
No, I'm sorry. You're right. We had 3. I hope so. Javen Coleman, a left-hander out of Texas, is a kid that has really come on like gangbusters. He averaged 2 strikeouts an inning, in the shortened season last spring. He's a kid that we recruited early. We thought that he would evolve into a harder thrower as his body matured and so forth. And that's exactly what's happened. And I think he's got a chance to come in and to do some good stuff for us. Brody Drost is going to be a really interesting kid for us. He was Mr. Baseball in the state of Louisiana in the shortened season. He's at a Barb High School in Lake Charles. Brody is also one of the better hitters that we recruited. He's also a really good left-handed pitcher. Probably is a guy that we, you'd think about as a bullpen type of guy. So on a day that you maybe would use him, you might DH, and then it gives him a chance to warm up, in a timely fashion and so forth. I think he's got a chance to do some good stuff for us. Both those kids have good arms. We brought in a junior college kid by the name of Alex Brady from the school that Eddie Smith used to be the head coach at, Lower Columbia Community College out in Washington State. And Alex is not a hard thrower, but he's kind of a developed finesse guy, a Chris Cotton type, maybe would be a good comparison. If he's as good as Chris Cotton, I'm going to be really happy. But as long as he's left-handed and can throw strikes and has a mix of pitches, I think he's got a chance to be successful. But I'm also very interested to see how much better Jacob Hasty and Brandon Kaminer are going to be for our team this year. I thought Kaminer did some really good stuff for us last year. And usually that first year for a junior college kid is not as great as it will be a second year. We were really fortunate that Kaminer's back for a senior year. I think if we'd have played a whole season, Kaminer probably would have gotten drafted and signed after last year. So he's an addition to our team that I didn't really expect to have, even though he was here last year. And I think Jacob Hasty probably has the best stuff of any of the left-handers. And it's just a matter of whether or not he can corral it and have good enough command. He pitched about 13 innings this summer and was very dominating doing that. And his command of his pitches was a little bit better. So I'm really hopeful that this kid can harness this really electric stuff that he has, and I think he'd be a really great left-hander. So I don't think there's going to be a shortage of left-handed pitchers like we may have had a couple years ago.
Hey, Coach, it's Glenn West here. I have a scheduling question for you, and I know that it might not be, the best time to ask it or answer it, but I guess kind of how are you approaching this year as far as scheduling like non-conference games and stuff with just kind of how everything is going right now with the COVID world?
Well, as of right now, Glenn, nobody has called me and canceled out on coming to Baton Rouge. Our schedule has not actually been approved by our university yet, so I'm probably speaking a little bit out of turn even talking about some of the teams, but I know we're within all of our regulations and policies and so forth, so I don't see any reason why our university wouldn't approve the schedule. But opening weekend, we have Notre Dame, Army, and Air Force coming in for Military Appreciation Weekend. And I've talked to all three coaches, and all three coaches still are planning on coming here. Now have things changed because football has been canceled in their conferences. Well, of course, Notre Dame is playing in the ACC. As of right now, they're still going, but Army and Air Force, their conferences have canceled fall sports already. So I don't know if that's going to impact things. We have Illinois coming in for a weekend series out of the Big Ten. With the Big Ten canceling football, are they going to be cutting back on their spring sports travel schedules? I don't know. I don't even know I have no reason to say this, but I don't know if the SEC is going to allow us to play non-conference games. Those kind of things have not even been addressed as far as I know. So what we did is we put our schedule together a couple years ago. I've checked in with all the coaches from all those other schools. They're still planning on coming to LSU, and until somebody tells me that they're not coming, or we're told by either our own university or our conference, we're just going to have the schedule in place. And then if they tell us something different, we'll adjust. Everybody's adjusting on the fly.
Coach, have you had players who've had the COVID or have it now, and how did they deal with it?
Glenn, of course we have HIPAA laws, and I can't speak of any names or anything like that. But yes, we've had a half a dozen players on our team that at some point during the summer or currently have had to deal with COVID. We've even had a couple of staff members that have had it. Now, we went through our physicals the other day for returning players. The new players have physicals tomorrow. And all of the returning players went through the physical and all tested negative for COVID. So that was very good to hear. But you know, I've talked to all the ones that have had it, and most of them were either asymptomatic or had very light symptoms. But it's not still anything that we're taking lightly. You know, we're not only are we doing a lot of precautions with the way we're organizing practice and doing these other things, but you know, we're going to an extreme in monitoring heartbeats and things like that while they're actively on the field. So I feel very confident that they're getting the very best medical attention and you know, and monitoring from our trainers, our physicians, everybody, the policies that Shelley Mullenix has put into place with all of the advice from the SEC office and the NCAA office. I don't know that we can be doing anything more than we're doing to ensure the best opportunity for these kids to be safe. And, you know, they all of these, the 6 they caught the disease, they were all home when they caught it. So, you know, where they got it, nobody knows for sure, but it just goes to show that when they live at home and they're doing the normal things that they do, they're coming into contact with people that potentially are carriers. While we have them here at school and we can control a lot of the things that they're doing, I think we got a better chance. Our players have all actually been quarantined since August 2nd. August 2nd, we had a Zoom call with our entire team, and Shelley Mullenix addressed the team, and they all went into quarantine at home that week. And then when they came here, the returning players came here on August 9th. The first-year players got here on August 12th. Now they're quarantining for another week while they're here in Baton Rouge. And so I think our players are being very meticulous. Everybody's being cynical, telling me that a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds are not going to abide by all the restrictions. But I don't know, I have confidence in these kids. I think it matters to them a lot. I think they're going to follow the guidelines that we give them. Doesn't mean that they may not catch the disease, you know, walking through the hallways or something. Who knows? You know, nobody knows how they can potentially get it. But I know they all seem very committed to doing the right thing.
Hey, Coach?
Hey, William.
Yes. I want to ask you what the expanded roster, just a challenge that's presented to you and the staff to try to evaluate, you know, the kids in the fall, you know, getting pitchers, innings pitched, and guys at bats and things of that nature, because you've got a lot of guys to look at.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, William, the combination of having more players and also not having a full spring season, and then many of the pitchers not pitching in the summer, we're really going to place an emphasis on doing scrimmage games this fall. A typical day in past years, we would work on fundamentals. You know, sometimes we would incorporate those fundamentals into a batting practice session, and then we generally would play a 4 or 5 inning scrimmage so they could then apply what they learned into a games type setting. This year, when we scrimmage, well, initially we might start off with about a 6 inning scrimmage, but there's going to be several days where we're going to have 8 or 9 inning scrimmage games, which when you're trying to do that in a 4-hour period, which is what you're allowed to have practice by NCAA rule, it doesn't allow you to do some of the other things that we've done in past years, like full batting practice sessions and that type of thing. But I think by playing more innings, more days, the pitchers are going to be more, we're going to try to extend the pitchers a little bit more, whereas we might have capped them at 3 inning outings in the fall. We might get up to 5 innings. I'd like to see Jaden Hill get up to 5 innings and then pitch maybe 3 times at 5 innings to see that he can hold his velocity, to see that he has the endurance, to prove to himself that he's healthy and that he can be a starting pitcher. So we're, you know, when you play more innings, the pitchers will have more innings, the hitters will have more at bats, there'll be more plays to be made in the field, they'll get to run the bases more frequently and so forth. So I don't really see that there's going to be a problem. We actually have 18 position players, and that'll be healthy and ready to go in the fall. Hayden Travinsky had a knee injury during the summer, so he's probably going to miss fall practice or most of it. And of course, Maurice Hampton is with football. So we have 2 two-way players, Brody Drost and Will Helmers, at a Jesuit high school in New Orleans. We basically recruited Will as a pitcher, but he did so well with the bat this past spring and this summer with his Legion team that we wanted to take a look at him. we'll basically have two 9-man teams to play against each other, and we're going to try to play as much like a regulation game as we possibly can, as frequently as we can. So I think we'll get a better look not only at the players that we haven't seen much of, the new players, but also the returning players, and it'll hopefully get the more at-bats they get. Some players will emerge and show that they should be starting players for our team.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach, I'm just kind of curious, what's the plan with Nick Storrs this fall as far as him getting in work, and also juggling the football team?
Well, the reality is he's going to do just like Maurice Hampton. He's going to be 100% totally dedicated to football during the fall semester. And that's the way that Coach Orgeron and I have agreed to do it. We did it with Maurice Hampton. We're doing it with Nick Storrs that way. And while they're football players, they're 100% football players. Now, if Nick Storrs wanted to play some catch on a Sunday morning with somebody, that's going to be up to him to keep his arm working, but he's not going to be involved in fall practice at all. And then when the spring rolls around, then both of them will be totally dedicated to baseball.
Paul, can you take us through the schedule of fall? When you would start? Is it going to be a slower ramp up? I understand you're talking about the scrimmages and stuff, but has any of that changed off of what would be a typical schedule for you?
Actually, Mike, my intention was to start 2 weeks earlier than we have started in the past, to ramp up faster, with the idea of trying to get through the fall before something might happen. If something unfortunate were to happen, I want to get in as much as we can get in case we have to shut it down at some point. But then what happened is I don't know whether it came from the NCAA or the SEC or it's our university policy, but we were told as head coaches that basically it's going to be about a 6-week period to ramp up. The 2 weeks of quarantine, which I already spoke of, they quarantined 1 week at home. They're going to quarantine 1 week here at LSU. Then there's going to be 2 weeks where they can start working with the strength and conditioning coaches so that they start to build up their endurance and those kinds of things. Everybody's very concerned about, the COVID virus and how it might affect the heart and things like that. So we want to make sure that we monitor the kids, and when we put them in stressful athletics environments, like being a strength coach in a weight room or in conditioning exercise, we want to make sure everybody's doing well with that. And then we're going to have 2 weeks of individual baseball practice in addition to the strength training and conditioning. And then after those 6 weeks, if everybody's doing well with it, then we're able to start fall practice as a full squad. So we're planning at this point of starting fall practice on Sunday, September 20th. And then concluding, I think it's October 30th, if I'm not mistaken. But it would be 1 week. We'd be starting 1 week earlier and finishing 1 week earlier than we normally would do in past years. I think everybody's aware that LSU has canceled fall break. So we're just going to practice right through basically in those, in that 6 week period, we're going to get our entire fall practice in.
So if I understand correctly, you got the same amount of time. You just slid it a week earlier. You're starting a week earlier, ending a week earlier.
Correct. Yes. And because there's no fall practice, no fall break, we sneak a couple of days in there so we can really condense it into the 6 week period. We have 27 practice days that'll basically be done over those 6 weeks.
Paul, do you have any confidence at all that at any point of the 2021 season will be quote unquote normal?
I really hope so, Ed, but I don't know any more information than you do or anybody else does. I heard it said many times when this virus first started, the virus will dictate to us what's going to happen. I asked that same question to my wife yesterday. We were driving in the car, and I actually asked her the exact same thing. I said, do you think at this spring that we'll get back to normal and have big crowds in Alec Box Stadium? And my wife felt very optimistic about it. I feel very optimistic about it. Of course, my optimism is just based on the hope that there's a vaccine that's going to be developed and people will use it, and it is going to be proven to be very effective. And, you know, and then our fans will feel very safe coming to the games. But I don't know, Ed. You know, I'm remaining really optimistic about it. And, you know, I'm hoping our football season is going to be played. Obviously, they're going to be making a lot of adjustments this fall with, you know, you guys all know what I'm talking about with the fans and so forth. But, you know, we're going to, in the baseball program, we're going to operate each day as though we're going to have a baseball season in the spring. It's going to start on February 19th. We're going to play 56 games. And at some point, hopefully, the gates will be open and the fans will be able to come into the games, and we'll be able to travel and do all the things that we normally do.
Hey, Coach. Sorry, I got one more question for you, but just I guess kind of who are a few players that I guess you're kind of hoping to establish themselves as leaders this year? Obviously, you know, Matthew Beck's going to be one, but who are some other guys? Because you got a pretty kind of new roster this year with all the extra players coming in.
Well, we have 17 new players, so that means we have 23 returning players. There's a 40-man roster. And listen, I never said that a veteran has to be a leader. When Alex Bregman was a freshman here, he was a leader on our team already. Duplantis was a leader as much as a freshman as he was as a senior. So some of these freshman players that are coming in, this is a really, really great class that we're bringing in. Nolan Kane did a phenomenal job with these guys. And because it was only a 5-round draft, we were able to hold on to some guys that perhaps in previous years we would have lost to professional baseball. So I'm really excited about this class. This is as good a class as we brought in since I've been here. And we've had several number one ranked classes. And this one may not be ranked number one, but it's certainly a top class. So I'm hoping some of these freshmen will emerge and be leaders as well. But some of the obvious choices when you look at some of the veteran players, Glenn, you mentioned Matthew Beck, but you've got A.J. Labus, who's back for his 4th year. Marceau will be back in his 3rd year as a starting player. Jaden Hill has not played as much as we would have liked to seen him play in 2 years, the 1st year because of injury, the 2nd year because of the shutdown. But Jaden's going to be a real leader of our staff. Devin Fonten, who's in his 4th year here. And we got leadership all over the place on our pitching staff. From a position player standpoint, I think you obviously look at Cade Beloso. This will be his 3rd year as a starting player. But I thought last year 2 of the best leaders that we had on our team from a position player standpoint were our catcher, Alex Milazzo, and the kid that took over at shortstop, Collier Cranford. And they were just freshmen, but you could see the energy that they played with and the enthusiasm that they had and how much they loved LSU and how much they competed. You know, they were used to competing pretty hard at Zachary High School, and they brought that right into our program. So I would think that those 2 kids will be great leaders. I'm hoping that Giovanni DiGiacomo in his 3rd year will continue to emerge and be somebody that we can really count on. I think Cade Doty's got a chance to be one of the very best players in the SEC. You know, so we're excited, about him. So, you know, there's a lot of guys that I think I'd love to see Gavin Dugas just develop the consistency that I think if he does can be a really outstanding hitter for us and with power. He had 4 home runs this summer in that South Florida Collegiate League. So, you know, the leadership is from 2 ways, Glenn. It's from producing on the field, and it's also with the personality that they may have where people gravitate towards them and so forth. And I think, you know, time will tell which kids will kind of take more of a vocal leadership role.
Coach, a couple of big picture questions. In terms you alluded to it a minute ago about the short draft, and apparently that's going to stay that way for a while now. Do you see that being a major impact in improving the quality of college baseball? It's something that could really make the sport even more visible down the road. And secondly, from a COVID perspective, the inability for some of these pitchers to throw and other players to participate in things like that. Do you think we'll see down the road a decrease in arm injuries and wear and tear injuries because of what didn't happen in the spring and summer this year?
Well, Lenny, those are great questions. Again, I'm very optimistic. You know, I've felt for a long time that there was a lot of animosity between college baseball and professional baseball, and there shouldn't be. You know, the NFL and college football, the NBA and college basketball, have always had great relationships, and the highest levels counted on the colleges to produce the players, to develop the players, I should say. Maybe not so much in basketball anymore because there's so many one and dones. But in baseball, for so many years, we've been competing against each other for the same players coming out of high school. And it's been one of the more frustrating things in my coaching career, quite frankly, because I have so many great friends in professional baseball, and I want our kids to go play professional baseball. Look at how many former LSU players are doing so great in the major leagues, and I'm so proud of them. LeMahieu and the two Nola boys and Bregman and on and on and on. So it shouldn't be an antagonistic relationship. But what happens is you recruit these kids, and then the professional people are trying desperately to keep those kids from coming to college so that they can get them into their minor league system so early. Well, now, not only is the draft maybe going to be cut back, I don't think it'll be 5 rounds again if everything's back to normal, but I don't think it'll ever go back to 40 rounds either. I'm thinking it's probably going to be 20 rounds or maybe even 10 rounds. But the other thing that's happened is they've eliminated a lot of minor league teams. What do they call that? Contraction, I think is the term that they're using. So there's going to be less spots for kids to be playing professional baseball. So I'm hoping that because of what happened this year and statistically it's being shown that kids that are signing out of college are being more successful in the major leagues, and the combination of that with the contraction combined with the lesser rounds of the draft, that more kids will start coming to college instead of signing professionally. I think we're still going to lose some, and we lost 2 in the draft this year, even in the 5-round draft. We could have potentially lost another 4 or 5 if kids would have just signed and not been so hard-lined about the figure it would take for them to give up their LSU experience. We're still going to lose players, but I think some more may come to college. And I think the more that come to college, the better the quality of the game. And I think that that's a good thing for college baseball, but I think it's a good thing for professional baseball because we're proving we can help these kids develop and become successful Major League Baseball players. And the other thing that you asked about is it, because of this last season, is there less wear and tear on the arms? Well, you can argue that it's less wear and tear on the arm, or you can say that it also hurt their development. And I think it's a matter of which way you look at it. Landon Marceau could have probably benefited from pitching 100 innings last year. So could AJ Labus. So could if Jaden Hill could have pitched 20 more times out of the bullpen last year, he probably would have developed a little bit more, but certainly they run the risk of injury and more wear and tear on their arms as well. So it's hard for me to say exactly what I think will happen there. It is what it is. We're going to deal with it, and we're going to hopefully stay healthy, and these kids will be good enough to win and developed enough to go into professional baseball and succeed when they go into pro ball.
Paul, this is such a tumultuous time in college athletics just across the board. How is that something that you address with your team when y'all aren't going to play until the spring?
You just talking about because a lot of schools and conferences have shut down sports in the fall, that type of thing. Yeah. I haven't really addressed it yet, Wilson, and I'm trying to pick the right time. There's so many other things that I have to address with our team right now. Later, we had a meeting this morning, a Zoom call with a whole team on NCAA rules and regulations that they have to get every year. In a couple of hours, we're going to have another Zoom call about how to use our facilities appropriately. Tomorrow, we're going to have another Zoom call about the adjustments we've had to make because of COVID and how we're going to use the facility and how we're going to organize practice and so forth like that. So there's so much stuff that you have to educate your players on just under normal circumstances that I really haven't taken the time to talk to them about what's going on. A lot of it has happened in the last few days, really, with conferences canceling their sports and so their fall sports and so forth. But at some point, I'm going to address it a little bit more with them, and we'll get that. I feel confident that the kids will get in the right frame of mind. I think they'll feel very fortunate to be at LSU, and that's the message that I'm going to give to them, that we have such great medical staff here. I mean, it's really unbelievable how good our medical people are, our trainers, Shelley Mullenix's expertise, the Southeastern Conference and what they're able to give to us, and then having the resources to do things. Some of these smaller conferences, smaller schools probably don't have the resources to do things that we're able to do at LSU. So I think the kids should feel very fortunate to be here. And they're concerned about their own careers and their own team. And I think, not that they don't, care about their fellow man or the sport in general or other programs, but that when you're 18 to 22 years old and you got your whole life ahead of you and you're worried about your own career, you may be a little bit oblivious to some of those other things that are going on in the world around them. But I'll talk to them about it because I normally do, but I just haven't found the time yet to do that.
Well, you've been at every level of the sport, and you kind of just alluded to it, the lower resource programs. You're one of the crown jewels. How much are people calling and confiding in you? I mean, how much support, I guess, is there amongst the coaches, of what could potentially loom around the corner?
Mike, if you think back 5 months ago when I think we had our first Zoom call about this, I think I talked in a very concerned way about college baseball, about some of the quote unquote non-revenue sports out there. And until I came to LSU, I coached baseball at 3 schools that were considered baseball a non-revenue sport. And I know how hard it was to justify your very existence, because basically you were a black hole that money went in and never came back out. You had to have the support of your administration to even have a program. And I know how fragile that is, because I know how schools are fighting the financial battles each year. It gets harder and harder under normal circumstances. And now with schools that depend so much upon their revenue sources that are going to be certain, maybe if not dried up, they're certainly going to be greatly reduced. Administrators are going to have to make some very difficult decisions across the country. And I'm just really concerned about it. And I care so much about college baseball. I care so much about college athletics. I'm an educator. That's what I grew to be. I'm the son of 2 educators, and you want these youngsters to get the experiences that are going to help them grow as people, to make them productive citizens once they finish their college experience. And the less opportunities that are out there, you feel that it's affecting society as a whole. So I have a lot of concerns about it, Mike, and I don't know what the end result is going to be, but I get a lot. I obviously been around a long time and have a lot of acquaintances, a lot of friends out there in the business, and they're all very, very nervous about what's going to happen. And I just try to keep telling them, just keep the faith and stay optimistic and hope that things can get back to normal soon, and just adapt to whatever your situation is the advice that I give to them. Lynn, if you're on mute, Lynn, that's you trying to talk to me. You got to unmute yourself. I can't hear you, Lynn.
Coach, can you put us in those Zoom meetings with you so we can all learn how to do it too?
All right.
There you go, Lynn.
Is that
Good.
okay?
Yep.
This is, I know there's no answer, but it's a 2-part question. Among your colleagues in conferences that have canceled fall sports, are they telling you what has to change in their particular locations before they're going to start spring sports? And the other part of that is, are you confident that where we are right now in the SEC, if we could take today in the middle of August and transport it to the middle of February, would those conditions be conducive to starting a season?
The first part of your question, the first question you had, the first answer that I can give you is no, my acquaintances, my friends have not specifically told me what has to happen for them to be able to play in the spring or to come to play at LSU or whatever. So I don't think anybody knows right now what's going to happen. The second part of your question, Glenn, Lynn, is I'm still very optimistic. I mean, let's see how fall practice goes. You know, if we can get through fall practice without having, you know, big setbacks because of the disease, I'll feel a lot more confident that we can at least play baseball in the spring. Will there be 10,000 people in Alec Box Stadium, or, you know, when we go on the road, will they jam their stadiums to come and see the Tigers play the hometown team? I don't know the answer to that yet. I don't think anybody really does. And, you know, February 19th is pretty far off. I know 5 months ago we thought football season was pretty far off, and here we are dealing with it now. But, you know, we're talking about 6 months from now, right, before college baseball season is supposed to start. And hopefully there'll be a lot of changes for the better in these next 6 months. Anybody else?
Yeah, just some clarification. Did y'all have any pitchers go out and throw this summer after not getting as many innings as you would have normally?
Yeah, Jacob Hasty pitched this summer. Mikhail Hilliard, unfortunately, had a little bit of a setback in the middle of the summer, so he wasn't able to join his team until a little bit later, but his last outing was really good. He pitched for the Acadiana Cane Cutters, and his last outing he pitched, I think, 6 innings and pitched extremely well, so that was very, very encouraging. Trying to think who else AJ Labus pitched down in Florida. I want to say he threw about 21 or 2 innings, and he was dominant in his outings down there in Florida. Probably pitched as well as anybody in that league that he pitched in. A couple of the high school kids, I know Brooks Rice pitched. I can't remember who else might have pitched this summer. Oh, Will Helmer's pitched for his Legion team for Jesuit High School. I think Ty Floyd shut it down. I'm not sure what Javen Coleman did. So not sure exactly which of the incoming players and how much they pitched. Wilson, I know that Alan Dunn was in constant communication with all those kids, but I don't have the information in front of me to remember what each one of them did. But, you know, I was starting to tell you of the position players. Cade Doty, I think he might have led the league in South Florida. He hit 429. Cade Beloso hit 415 or something to that effect. Now, this is in 70 to 90 at bats, okay? They both obviously made the All-Star team. Zach Arnold hit right around 300, made the All-Star team. Gavin Dugas hit 4 home runs. I don't remember what his batting average was, but he made the All-Star team down there. Dylan Cruz started out really slow, but the last 15 games, he must have hit 500. He was hitting like 110 through the first 5 games and ended up hitting about 350. And he hit a couple of home runs, and I was real happy to see him, you know, finish the summer on a really positive note. Giovanni DiGiacomo was doing really well, and then he slid into second base and head first and broke a finger, so he had to miss the second half of the month that he was down there playing in the league near his home.
Is Dylan a day one starter, or is he going to challenge somebody in the outfield?
Dylan Cruz? We'll see how it goes, Mike. You know, he's going to get the opportunity just like everybody else does, but you're talking about a kid that's got pretty special qualities. You know, when you see him out there running around, you'll see what I mean. You know, he looks like a big leaguer out there, and he's got the talent, and I think he's got the work ethic. He's a good kid. He's smart, very, very committed to what he's doing. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't show well this fall, but I'm not going to just hand it to him. He's going to have to earn it over some other good quality ball players.
Coach, I guess one of the opportunities you will not have this fall would be the chance to play scrimmages against, like last year you did UNO and Nichols, and just how beneficial was that, and not to maybe experience that again?
Yeah, William, I was actually in New Orleans yesterday. I was on UNO's campus doing an interview with Blake Dean and Ron Maestri for, I think, one of their websites or something like that. So I guess the Southland Conference just canceled fall sports yesterday while I was there, or the day before. So we were supposed to play UNO away game this fall. And I mean, I can't imagine that they're going to allow Blake to do that if they're not allowing the teams that are in season to play. But I haven't gotten any official word yet. If those games get canceled, then I'll reach out to somebody else that might be allowed to and see if we can play them. I'd like to play a couple of games in the fall that we're allowed to do by NCAA rule. It's a matter of whether or not we can find anybody. But if we can, we do, and we'll do it towards the end of the fall. If we can't, then it'll just be back to what it was like in years gone by, where you couldn't play anybody else. So we'll just deal with it that way. Bill, anybody else?
All right. Thank you all very much for joining us today. Thank you, Coach Mainieri, and we will
Thank you,
we'll
Paul.
stay in touch. Everyone be safe.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Hope to see
Thank you.
soon.